Boom, boom,
Bam!
boom, boom, boom.
Hello, boys.
boom.
How is everyone?
Good.
Is it still doing the music? It probably is.
No, I'm just doing it to set a mood.
Alright, lowering that ish.
It's fucking catchy.
It is a catchy song. Here, maybe I'll just put it on looping in the background. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's not too loud.
No, I was gonna suggest Cam's music actually.
Cam's
piano.
music?
Yeah, I thought that was appropriate
Oh,
for.
yeah, that was a really good song. Damn it, why didn't you say something?
Oh, you can still do it.
Yeah, but I want to get into it.
All right, get into it.
Well,
Do it.
welcome everyone. I guess this is our first
Welcome.
live newscast, and yeah, right.
We need lower thirds.
Damn it, where did I put my soccer
Yeah,
board?
right?
Oh, dude, I kind
We
of
do need
had.
more. We just manually put up a post-it on your camera. There's like something hanging off the mic. So essentially the reason I want to do this is because, you know, in the podcast, sometimes we have news segments, but because of the thematic discussions that we've been having lately, we haven't really had time so much for news. And we're also trying to figure out where the news fits into like our media landscape as qwertycast. So I figured news is great live because that way we can put it out much sooner, and the information that you're getting is, you know, it's yesterday. And today we're talking mostly about the Apple and Epic kind of Google lawsuit that started day one yesterday. And I mean, like, if you've been following the podcast, you know that we talked about in episode 19 and episode 20. Steve over here, Captain Bean Sparrow, gave us a good lowdown on like what was going to happen with that lawsuit, and maybe on YouTube I'll like include a clip of that. But
We can do a quick recap though if we want to get everybody
yeah.
kind of caught up.
I would love that.
Basically, it just boils down to Epic Games intentionally designed a system that allowed users of Fortnite on iOS to bypass the payment system that Apple has to purchase in-game currency and items directly. Of course, that breaks Apple's terms and conditions, and Epic was aware of the fact that they were doing that. They had an entire legal system, like team and case put together right before they initiated this. So Apple retaliated by immediately removing Fortnite from the App Store, and it's just been kind of a back and forth since then. But I guess yesterday was the first day in court for it. They both waived a jury trial, so this is a bench trial. It's just going to be determined by the judge.
Okay. And so some of the really interesting stuff that happened, like I was telling you right before we started, was, well, for one, they had an open telecom line for some reason. I should look into why. And that immediate first minutes of that lawsuit started with a bunch of like kids pretty much just yelling into the mic, screaming obscenities, singing praises towards Apple or Epic or like their own YouTube channels. And I don't know if this needs to be censored later.
Follow us on qwertycast.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I hate this, by the way. Find my Finsta later.
Yeah, from what I can tell, they had like when that happened, they kind of like claimed technical difficulties, cut the audio for a little bit, but then when they came back, they still left someone, like just one user's mic hot, and apparently for like the next 10 minutes while the lawyers were giving like their initial statements, he was just like screaming gobbledygook into the mic to try and like cut off their like actual speeches. And at one point he started chanting Reddit. He was just like, he said something about please don't free Fortnite, which I still don't understand that.
Yeah. The hashtag free Fortnite was trending on Twitter on Monday yesterday, as if like Fortnite isn't already free, but I guess, you know, free it from the chains of Apple's monopoly.
Definitely.
Which we're not arguing it's not. But I guess we want to just have this like unbiased conversation of what happened on both sides and what we, I guess, are hoping for in the future. Because as I was talking to Kenny about this, I didn't really understand myself if this is going to affect only the mobile market or any market in general. But I know that, like we said, Apple is basically saying we are not the only market out there, so don't act like we're such villains. And Epic is saying, no, you do have the majority share over what decisions are made on the mobile market, and everyone's looking towards making their market like more like yours, and you're so inclusive, like you're such a you're
Monopoly.
and they used in their monopoly, they used the term walled garden in their presentation, and I thought that was really interesting because this isn't new to us. Like Apple's always acted like this. It is like proprietary. It's we do our things our way, and you use our software and hardware to do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see like how this whole argument had kind of been fleshed out on both sides, because Apple, definitely with the advantage, knows that they have the advantage, has kind of come in here and said like, look, Epic is making this big stink, but their game is available on Xbox, on PlayStation, on PC through the Steam marketplace. You can get it on Android. So Apple is just kind of going in with this whole like, why are you looking at us? There's all these other places you could go. But I mean, to give Epic a little bit of credit, they are correct in attacking Apple in the sense that Apple has had 100% control over their platform. They're very strict on who gets on, who doesn't. Unless you're jailbreaking your phone, which is a very small percentage of users, you have no other resource for app installation other than the App Store directly. So, like, there's definitely an argument to be had here. I don't know, and I've said this on the podcast, and I know you guys probably all have heard me say this multiple times, but I don't think Epic is the best company to be pursuing this conversation. I know that Apple has a lot of people breathing down their neck right now. I know that even the federal government is talking about antitrust lawsuits against them for this purpose. But having a company who's making literal billions off of their game across multiple markets to turn around and try and pick a fight with Apple, it just seems slightly disingenuous. But that's kind of where we're at right now. Is it really just comes down to what this judge decides is going to be his definition of the market as a whole. Is he going to consider Apple's argument and say, yeah, you're right, Epic could go elsewhere? Or is he going to look at this in a really narrow and focused argument as to how Apple handles their own apps and their contract with their developers?
So I guess real quick to like Kenny, to Kyle, or I don't know how much you know about what's going on with this, Kyle. I know that you do listen to the podcast, but maybe more so Kenny, who is less informed on this conversation. What kind of questions do you have about like what's going on, or is there anything that doesn't totally make sense as the outsider?
I do have questions. Who do we want to win? That's my first question. Like who, like if
Not a bad
Apple
question.
wins, does that like is that better for us than Epic winning, or is Epic winning better than Apple winning?
I guess it depends. Like, it depends on how they win. So, like, winning isn't, in this case, it's not going to be like a 100% Epic or 100% Apple. It's definitely going to be some kind of middle ground. Me and Andres were talking about beforehand, like, there was somebody who had commented and said, like, what if Apple turns around and cuts a deal with Epic directly? Would they back down and just take that, advantage for their own company? I think at this point it would be really, really slimy if that was to be the case, but those opportunities are still on the table. I think the things that I look forward to for Epic being a potential winner is that you may actually see a boom in the development market on mobile, because Apple will be, there'll be a compulsory action that they'll have to take in order to open up their store to more developers, different types of contracts. So there's definitely a huge implication on the mobile market when it comes to iOS if Epic actually manages to get some kind of win here. If Apple wins, it's just par for the course, honestly. I mean, you're talking about $1 trillion company winning a lawsuit is not really that hard to believe at this point. This, we want to compare this to a David and Goliath situation, but it's Goliath versus a much larger Goliath, and in the end, both of them are just going to kind of walk away millionaires and pat each other on the back and say that was a good show. This is McGregor fighting Mayweather. Both of them know that really it's just for the show. They're going to walk away with lots of money. If they punch each other in the face a couple times, by the end of the week, everybody will forget about it. So I don't know.
I guess then with that being said, like, why should us as gamers care? How does that affect us as gamers?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the trending for gamers and like how we interact with games, cell phones has taken a huge market share over the last decade and a half, where it was not even a consideration before. Casual gaming as a whole is really kind of taken off, and the mobile platform is where you're seeing that. So for us, I mean, a restructure on Apple side, it would be positive because we would have access to more things if you are an iOS user, which is a big chunk of the market. So you'd be able to see more games, play more games, have more of a positive benefit for the developers directly putting money into their pockets instead of into Apple's. So overall, it just kind of like spurs this huge conversation as to like, hey, maybe we should consider developing on Apple's platform now, and they'll have this whole creative outlet for that probably doesn't exist right now purely because of how strict they are. So there is definitely something to look forward to with Epic potentially winning something here, in my opinion.
Also, look at how this all started. Epic was like pissed off that they couldn't create a platform for users to pay them directly for the content that they were creating. They had to actually go through Apple and pay Apple for Epic's work. And that, like, the reason that we saw this happening in the first place, like, Epic kind of still falls into that, oh, we knew you much more recently than not, as being like indie darlings. And so they are taking that position as like the voice of indie developers. And even look what they did back in April. I don't know if you guys noticed that they put the itch.io store on the Epic store, and they even used that example as a reference in their opening argument that, hey, we're a lot more inclusive. You know, we have this like platform that allows indie developers to you know, put whatever they want, and we're not going to take a cut.
Yeah, it's so muddy. Like, this is where it comes down to that whole thing where, like, if it was any other company, any other developer other than Epic, I probably would be like full swing onto that side, and like I'd be drumming up, people would be marching down to the Capitol Hill, you know. But with Epic, see, the problem is that you have a Unreal Engine contract with Apple specifically for iOS. Like that out the gate causes a huge conflict of interest. We consider them to be these like, you know, indie developers, but Epic has really expanded its platform so much. And so yes, the conversations about Fortnite, which is an indie game that they developed, but what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a statement about how Apple conducts their business and the way that they extract money. You know, Apple's hosting these services. They're responsible for, you know, all of the users' connectivity to the game. So they're definitely entitled to compensation. The question comes down to how much and how often. I think the only reason why Epic really wanted to push this is because the sheer quantity of cash that was flowing, just to them having a flat percent means that Apple is making way more off of their game than any other developer on the market. But, you know, we see this with everything. The number, you know, the volume of users is going to dictate the quantity of money made. And so you know, it goes back and forth. You look at, what is it? Steam has a revenue system where it's like, after so many downloads, then you upgrade your tier of your contract and it's a different cut. Like we see different contract styles through different platforms, and I think Apple's is,
they have one.
Epic is pointing out that
everyone.
It's just one for everybody. Yeah, that's the point. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so tough. I definitely want to see the ripple effect of this, and see how this plays out. The fact that the gamers are already trolling the trial is fantastic.
That is pretty great. Gamer's gonna game. Gamer's gonna troll.
Gamer's gonna troll.
I'd love to throw it over to Kyle too. And one other thing I was going to say was that something I'm really something I'm really interested in seeing that has already started, which we can get into, is how Apple is going to be dragging Epic and showing all of the things that Epic is doing wrong, because we already have some information now about just the amount of money they're making, the partnerships they're doing, and also like one of the bits of data that we got to look over was how much money Epic is paying the developers of the games that they're putting on their store for free. And I think everyone's probably wondered, like, what's in it for you if as a developer when you put your like game up for free on the Epic store. And we learned a little bit about that. But Kyle, yeah, what do you think about all this? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have anything to add so far?
I think Apple's presentation did a really good job of reinforcing their value in the market and why they are the leaders in that industry. They had a slide that specifically talked about the sheer number of viruses and like malware between like on average that the users experience while they're using a device. And on iOS devices, it was like less than 8% of users experience some form of this stuff. And so they said there's an incentive there for the user to want to go through our platform of the App Store. And so as such, we've developed a good product. So that value carries and trickles down all the way to why we're justified this percentage of your transactional fees.
Right.
And so I thought that was like, it was telling what Apple does really good, which is like the story over time.
Yeah.
And so they didn't just say, hey, here's an email from two weeks ago, which there was a lot of that in Epics. They have, I don't know how they got it, but they did have a lot of communication emails too, between the companies. And so I felt that instead of taking that approach of like, here's what happened 2 weeks ago, a month ago, and why it's so relevant, they said, hey, our value is intrinsic with our brand. And yes, that's part of the problem with us being a monopoly, but it's also like built on these foundational things that like we are the leader in this, and therefore we can charge premium price.
Yeah, if I can put a counterpoint on that. So this has been a tactic that Apple's used on almost all of their platforms as far as a marketing standpoint, which is this whole concept that their devices have a much higher security.
Right.
And one of the things that I always try to point out, because it is important to consider, is that if I'm a person who's trying to impact the security of a device, I'm usually doing it for financial purposes. And so when I'm acting maliciously, I'm going to act maliciously against the largest market share. And so the problem that I have with Apple using security as a conversation when it comes to their brand is that the iOS market share is about 26%, the Android market share is about 72%. So 99 out of 100 securities developers who are trying to get financial information off of users or impact their performance or anything malicious, they're typically going to target Android devices because that's your largest net. Same goes for like MacBooks versus PCs. MacBooks always, every single time they come out with a new version, they talk about their security system and how the least number of viruses, but it's also because it's the least number of viruses being developed for that platform. So it's like, I totally agree that they make a solid product when it comes to hardware, but a lot of times their conversation with software seems to be slightly disingenuous because it's not presenting the argument with the full amount of information. It's presenting it as, we're fantastic at this, but we have much less concern about it. That particular point always bothers me. But they definitely present their case well, and it's Apple. Why wouldn't they? They're going to spend so much money to tell a great story, and they've been doing this for decades. They are good at marketing, and that's what a trial is you're marketing yourself. So I get it, but I also hate it.
Yeah, and Cozy Moses on Twitch agrees with you. It's hardly David versus Goliath. It's more David Jr. versus David Sr. I mean, Goliath Jr. versus Goliath Sr.
100% Cozy Moses. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. We're all sitting here looking up at the big giants and saying, well, what's going to happen? Right. And in the end, there's not much we can do about it.
They'll still be giants. Yeah, so this, it's really interesting. I'm excited to see, quote unquote, to see what happens next. I need to look into do you know when the next day of the lawsuit's gonna be? Maybe we should do like a more live one.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Hey, thank you for the gift. Oh my god, it was you meta bastard.
Always gotta get it in there.
Day 2. Okay, where are we going? So day 2, how do we learn what day is day 2? Any other thoughts that you guys think we should touch on? I'm trying to think. Let me look at Discord, because for anyone who's watching who doesn't already know, if you are in our Discord, which you can get to through qwertycast.com, I've been posting some information in our Tech Cafe text channel and just some of the links that I was looking at while researching all of this. including the information about EGS, welcoming itch.io last month into their which is basically an app library inside of an app library, but and just them paying out the lump sum. Oh, right. So I did not talk about that lump sum and that conversation about lump sum, and that conversation about what Epic gives to its developers for the free games. So that was just like the most interesting bit of information that I came across that our friend Scat shared with us. And there's a lot of basically Epic will pay a lump sum to developers in order to put their game on for free for what is it, the week or the month. And Epic is using it as let's say that your game has already kind of lost traction and maybe you're not already making money off of it, so we'll give you like this amount of money for hosting it, and it's just good exposure, so you get money for whatever your next game is, or maybe adding DLC to this game in general. But there are some games that made a lot more money than others, and it was just it's just interesting to hear the counter arguments between people, because it feels a little bit like gaslighting to me, where Epic is saying to these developers, like, you're not getting any money from your game, so we're just going to give you a lot less than you would for making this amount of sales. And I have to go back onto what exactly the UA. Let me see if I can actually post this on our Twitch, because that way people can look at this.
Maybe I can ask some questions around this while you do that. So one of the things I'm wondering is, so when you talk about this lump sum that Epic gives to the developers, that's essentially like a licensing fee? Should we think of it like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like a licensing fee, but it's a licensing fee that has like a time limit to it. So it's, yeah, I mean, to kind of point to what Andres was saying, was that it's like they're basically determining what they expect your marketability is over the course of a specific period of time, and then they're going to essentially buy all of the licenses that they would expect in that time frame, and then open it up free to the market. But what's kind of interesting about this is that Epic knows that when they put a game up for free on their market, and especially when they're going to advertise the hell out of it, because it's going to be the first thing you see when you sign in, that you're going to get a much larger number of downloads than you would on a typical week. So they're using trending information to determine what they would expect as a way of determining the value, but then they're pumping it to guarantee that there's a much larger market present at the time that it goes free. So yeah,
what incentive do they have to pump it like that?
Users. So Epic's entire platform is designed around maintaining user count, because the more users that you have utilizing your platform, the more revenue that you're going to make over time when new games come out.
Gotcha. So basically the idea here is, like, when they're negotiating the rate, we think that Epic is acting improper in the fact that they have more data and aren't forthcoming with what they actually project that game to do.
Yeah, in a sense.
Basically. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think, okay, because that helps me a lot, because that's just, to me, like, there are technical answers where you're like, well, they don't have to. And then you have like moral answers where you're like, yeah, but if Epic's going to play this card in court where they are the good guys standing up for developers, and then in private, they're not forthcoming with developers in terms of like, hey, we think this will be a good thing for you. As part of our mission, here's the transparency on what we think it will be. And we are asking, what deal can you cut us if we do this, instead of the opposite, which is, how can we negotiate with you to get something that we know is worth more than we're willing to pay for it?
Yeah, this is one of those situations where it's kind of like the influencer commentary when it comes to like, if you give me a free ice cream cone, I'll post it on my Instagram. And so the thing is that like Epic is basically saying, look, this is what you're trending at. We know that you're not getting your name out there. We guarantee that you are going to see a huge boom in users, but they're not really like explaining this in the sense that it's like, this is the amount of money you would have made had the same number of users just bought your game, versus this is how much we're going to pay you out, and there's a huge disparity in those two values. Yeah, so it's a shame. You can look at it two ways. One is those developers never would have seen the same number of users had they just marketed it normally. But on the other side, they're also receiving a vastly discounted evaluation of the game in the first place. So
Especially if you're not a big, like, in these deals that they do, there are top tier games that they're trying to acquire. And then there's sometimes where they're just like, meh, we'll just put this one in there because we kind of like it. It's a good deal. We think we can get it for cheap kind of thing.
yeah.
And so those are the ones that it's like the hardest because you know that they're going to have to almost increase costs to be able to run during that promo.
Mhm.
And then after the promo, because there's real no long tail there, it's like they're stuck with those costs for a user base that like didn't actually buy the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
And
So-
probably didn't even play it. Like, how often have you heard somebody say, like, go get the free game on Epic? It's free, just get it, and you don't actually end up playing it.
That's the problem, is that they're taking gamer psychology, and you know, we all want to be, especially us, because we're the qwertycast, we want to promote indie games. So we take a much different approach than what you would consider a typical gamer's mentality around this. Is it's library building, whether or not they're actually going to play it, whether or not they're going to turn around and then continue to support the developer because of the enjoyment that they got out of this game, is a totally different story. It's really just a matter of, oh, free? Yeah, please. We see the same thing with Switch. If any of you guys have used the Switch market, they have an algorithm that determines what their hot sellers are. If you go and look at their like deals, or not deals, I'm sorry, it's like their top sellers of the week menu. But what Switch is doing is they're taking indie games that are not seeing a huge volume of sales, and they're working out a contract with the developer and saying, we're going to put your game up there for 15 cents this week. And then what ends up happening is that game becomes the top seller. And so then a week later, when the game goes back to normal pricing, it's still on the top seller list for maybe a day. But there's a huge loss in value for the developer because that boom of players that, yes, may not have existed in the first place, still is paying a fraction of what the game was originally marketed as. So it's one of those gray area things, like what's right and what's wrong. For the developers, I'm sure anytime they're losing money, it's wrong. Especially if they're smaller groups.
So, just to clarify some of the information in that post, we have entitlements, buyout price, and UA cost. And the entitlements is how many users got the game for free. Buyout price is how much the devs were paid upfront so that their game would be put up for free in store A. And this doesn't necessarily mean that a game is suddenly unavailable in other stores. And then the UA cost is user acquisition cost, buyout price divided by the new Epic accounts. UA costs what Epic spends per new user to try out its store. Visibility plus transitioning into a paying customer is something that's something it's after.
Just basically increasing the number of users on its platform in order to convert them into purchasers down the road. It's like giving somebody a gift card. Right now in the US, the statistics on a gift card is that you're going to spend 4 times the evaluation at the location that the gift card's for. And so they're using the same mentality with attracting users is I'm going to give you something for free with the expectation that now that you are more heavily using my platform, you are going to continue to use it when I want you to pay for something.
And it seems like a game like Metro Exodus had an exception because it was under an exclusivity deal at the time.
Yeah, well, the exclusivity deals are crazy too, because Epic will literally put their company in the red if they think that it's going to turn a profit, 5 years down the road. They pay out massive amounts of money. We saw that with like the Division 2. It was Satisfactory for the first year. Like there's a lot of games. Yeah.
Thank you, Cozy Moses. And actually, as he gives another sub to, hey, it's Calvin. So there you go, Calvin. He says earlier that releasing them for free is also an interesting way to breathe life into dead games that are at the end of their cycle or long past dead. Helps revitalize otherwise dying communities. Which, yes, definitely is one of the arguments, but there are counter arguments, like we've.
Yep.
And as Awad said, that's my Steam library too. I've gotten better at not buying it at all during Steam sales. Nintendo Store is so broken for any non-Nintendo games. I've also heard that too. So
yeah.
I wish, like, is Nintendo the Apple of gaming? Well, no, because Apple is the Apple of gaming.
And just one last thing I want to kind of point to is
Mhm.
so Apple's actually under fire from a lot of different places right now. So the Epic Games trial was the big news trial. But lawmakers just like last week, or I think it was last month, they had a hearing to talk about like the giant app stores, and Apple's was one of the biggest points of conversation
Mhm.
because they're going to look into pursuing antitrust laws now that there's a Democratic majority. There was also the Justice Department looking into Apple's App Store rules. And then, of course, the big thing is the European Union regulators that actually brought charges against Apple directly in an antitrust law that they're still actually disputing. And that was specifically about the way that they handle music apps. I think it was brought up by Spotify. But again, it all ties back to the way that Apple handles their store on their devices. And so they're facing a multi-fronted attack right now, basically on the same conversation.
All right. Well, oh shoot, I still didn't find what day is the second. Day 2.
Did
Oh,
you see
is
that
today
NPR
just day
posted
2?
about it?
Say again?
You see that NPR posted about it?
No. What are they? Anything you gained from that? Or what's the title?
Probably not too much from what you guys already have. It's the Epic Games versus Apple trial has begun. Here's what you need to know.
It might just be every day, because I have an article up right now that was posted today talking about day 2.
Yeah, it says this trial's set to stretch on for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Makes sense. There's going to be a lot of data, a lot of
data.
back and forth conversations. It'd be cool if somebody goes through and makes like a breakdown each day. I'm going to see if I can try and find something like that. That way we can kind of just do like a highlights.
So is there like I know there is a court TV, but how is this broadcast? Is this streamed? Like, and why is it this one? Is that common for like?
So I think that they typically were streaming stuff like this on YouTube, that court specifically. I know that they changed up their methodology for this one because they expected a larger volume.
I thought you were saying quirt to like QWERTY, and I was like, wait, what?
Wait, can we broadcast it? Can we redistribute it? But no, I think
too.
YouTube was the primary source for it, because a lot of these cases, like we're getting more transparency, which I love, because that means that we can actually like watch and listen and call bullshit. But yeah, I think they tried switching it up for this one, and it ended up backfiring with this whole like hot mic audience being able to. But I'm pretty sure that you can watch it on YouTube each day. If I find a link for that, I'll definitely post it.
Yeah, because that to me is like the most interesting thing, is that this isn't. I'm like, why is it broadcast? Who agreed to that? Like, if you were either Apple or Epic, would you not want that, or would you want that? Who does it favor?
True.
I think it's gonna burn them both.
Yeah,
right.
It might
It's
favor
got to.
Epic, because if you don't really know much about it, you just want Fortnite back on the iOS store.
Free Fortnite.
Yeah, free.
Yeah, maybe
God.
maybe it's them then.
The only other thing that I was going to kind of talk about, but I didn't do enough research on, so maybe another day, was PlayStation partnering with Discord, because I know that we were all kind of wary about this news that Discord might have almost partnered with Microsoft, and now it seems like that contract went to PlayStation, which they don't have a majority share, so they're just like, they have a seat at the table. They have an investment into Discord's future, and we know that there'll probably be a merge of Discord into the PlayStation, like gaming, just like live gaming. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, but PlayStation supports Twitch streaming directly from your PlayStation. Like, with the PS4 even, you could stream directly to Twitch. And so how does that work if you have Discord?
What's the quality like?
It looks good from what I saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Which PlayStation games are being twitched right now?
Oh God, what's not? I mean, probably Fortnite. Spider-Man for sure when it came out.
That makes sense.
What, you weren't looking forward to the Discord Edge edition? No, I was not, AWA. Thank you very much. Gosh.
I know, Kyle, you had talked about this in the Discord earlier. Did you get any more information on that? Do you have comments on that?
No, we just also run a SaaS fund, so I do have a little bit of info in terms of just like what it means when somebody buys a seat at the table and gets on like a cap table for investing and how that all works, basically what happens is to reach the next level in terms of like market share, a lot of companies raise money in what they call series. So like a series A, a series B, a series D. They kind of go up in scale. So your first one is a seed round, which is like a little baby tree. And then you go all the way up to like H's and F's. So people are raising money all the time. But basically what they do is they divide out their shares and they say, we're going to sell this many shares and we're going to try to raise this much money. To do that, you have to say that your company is going to be worth X amount of money if you reach this goal. That's where your valuations come in. So when they say like a company is like a $10 billion valued company, that doesn't mean they have like $10 billion in the bank. It doesn't even mean that they have like that much in success. It basically means like it's projected to be that way, even if today they started to decline. So it's like a little bit of a curtail effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but so in this, I don't know what Discord's total goal was. I don't know who all was in that cap table round.
Mhm.
But if you had, when you're making this deal with Microsoft, not Microsoft, PlayStation, what you're basically doing is you're committing that like, hey, we're going to be working together. And now I have an additional reason for you to like want to work with me. So like, I don't think PlayStation wants to buy Discord. I do think that PlayStation wants to be on the forefront of when Discord becomes more mainstream. And this is their bet. And almost saying that we will use our resources to help you get there. Because now not only is it good for our platform in terms of like the user experience, it's also like financially beneficial to us because we're invested in the company. So, I mean, we use a lot of that kind of leverage to do like two things. Like on one side, you can get a seat at the table and like help direct the product in the way that you think is best. And on the others is like you get the meetings that you might not have been able to get. So you can use it as like upward momentum leverage or like lateral leverage.
Okay.
It's really interesting. I appreciate that perspective. Yeah, this is just like, since we use Discord so heavily, I can truly attribute Discord to the reason that qwertycast is a solid group of people and friends, and that we've all gotten connected to each other. So I am invested in the future of Discord and what happens to it. Is Discord?
Honestly,
yeah.
I was gonna say it's about time that like a console gets, more in tune with the gaming voice chat software as opposed to trying to force players to use, whatever their PlayStation networks is.
Yeah. And Discord does a really good job of feeling like a personalized experience, and like I guess they just have a really good media and marketing team, because every single thing I see that Discord puts out is super, like, it's just fun. It's interesting to look at. It's well animated. It's like, it's just well produced, and I really enjoy, like, I don't enjoy updates from any app except for Discord. So
I'd be really interested to see if they turn this into a full integration opportunity, because I'm not sure how much experience you guys have with Sony, but one of my biggest complaints with the PlayStation systems over the years is that their community services are just not up to snuff. I mean, Xbox has done a very good job, and I really think that Sony needs to be looking elsewhere when it comes to how you group up, how you party, how you communicate. It just seems to be not so streamlined. So if this turns into something where Sony is basically saying, here's some money and we're going to come to a table and we're going to have you guys actually take over that aspect of our systems, I would be totally on board for that. The messaging system right now is bulky. The way that I actually view other players and what they're currently doing is a pain in the butt. It's just
friends.
Yeah, like
Awesome.
Yeah. So if this ever did turn into full integration, it's a huge, value piece for Sony, because that makes their product so much more interesting to me.
Yeah, but at the same time, going with what Cozy Moses said in the chat, Discord on PS4 is a good example of how every generation consoles become more and more like gated PC communities. And it's like, man, just come on, PC mustard race, guys. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. If Sony would just, finally say, okay, cross server is fine, like every other major platform. But they seem to be not for that right now.
Y'all, this was a great conversation. I'm really glad I instigated this because I think I learned a lot. I don't as you can probably tell, I'm not incredibly well spoken, and I just think that this would have been a lot different if it was just me. But you guys bring a lot to the table in terms of how you present information. I really enjoyed that, and I hope that other people did too. So thank you everyone who did join us. If you are on our Discord, we're gonna play some Sea of Thieves. I think a few of us will. We might have a stream of that coming up Thursday. What else is going on? Episode 29 of the podcast is available. That we talked about DLC versus sequels and kind of why a game would aim for doing one over the other, and sort of our thoughts on our favorite DLC and sequel. I was actually talking to a friend of mine, Cozy Moses, actually, about how one of the most egregious DLC that ever came out was the $4 horse armor from. God, now I'm forgetting.
Bethesda. You're talking about Skyrim, right?
I did hear about that.
Yeah. So.
Oh man. I mean, I could point to a few, but yeah, that one was.
Right, which is another reason why we deserve to have revisiting episodes, or maybe we should just do a Twitch stream of us listening back to our own podcast and saying, oh yeah, now I have something to say about that. What'd you say?
We're doing commentary on our own podcast.
Commentary.
Can we just do MSK 3000 of our own
on
podcast?
our own stuff?
Yeah.
I like it.
Oddly
Can we
enough,
get our little silhouettes in the bottom corner?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Love it.
I need to be identified by something else though, because I cut my hair, so maybe I'll give myself twirly
Cut my hair
horns.
in pieces.
Oh no, you went too short.
Oh god. That was good.
Oh
He
no.
says, oddly enough, Oblivion also had one of the best DLCs, Shivering Islands.
Shivering Isle.
I'll have to look at it. All right, well, I'm gonna close it out there. This is a good
Word.
segment, and I appreciate you all for coming. Thank you everyone for watching. Find us on here, Discord, and qwertycast.com. Who wants
Find
to say
us.
it? Ooh, look at that, new follow.
Find us. QwertyCast out.
QwertyCast out.